And in 1910, a working generator was demonstrated to the U.S. Patent Office that required zero fuel, zero solar panels, and zero electrical grid hookup. It ran on gravity, and within 4 years, it was classified, the patents were tied up, and the man behind it was discredited so fast it'll make your head spin. We're talking about a suppressed technology that, if it had been allowed to hit the market, would have made every power company, every fuel supplier, and every utility monopoly in America completely obsolete by 1920. They didn't just ignore it, they went after it, hard. I'm going to show you exactly what it was, how it worked, the documented evidence that still exists, and more importantly, how modern builders and off-grid mechanics are already using the core principles today to light up entire workshops, cabins, and homesteads, off the grid, no fuel bill, no meter running. Before they find a way to ban this video, let's get into it. Mechanic moves to workbench, blueprints and old documentation spread out, points to papers directly. Let me tell you who the villain is here, because there's always a villain. And in this story, it's not one guy. It's a system. By 1910, you had 3 power structures that were terrified of any technology that didn't need their product. First, the coal industry. Coal powered everything, every steam generator, every early electrical plant. Coal barons had already bought senators. That wasn't a conspiracy theory, that was documented congressional testimony. Second, the early electrical monopolies. Edison's direct current infrastructure, Westinghouse's AC rollout. Both of these required you to be a customer, a permanent metered paying customer. A generator that runs on gravity, that's a customer they lose forever. Third, and this is the one people forget, the emerging petroleum lobby. By 1910, Standard Oil had already been broken up on paper, but Rockefeller's people were still deeply embedded in federal regulatory bodies. They saw what was coming with the internal combustion engine. They needed fuel dependency baked into American infrastructure from the ground up. So when a mechanical engineer named Edward Morley, working out of a small machine shop in western Pennsylvania, filed preliminary documentation with the Patent Office in 1909, describing a closed-loop gravitational energy capture system using counterweighted flywheel arrays. Within 18 months, his funding dried up. His workshop was condemned on a zoning technicality, and the Patent Office quietly reclassified his application under a category that didn't allow public disclosure. That category? National Security Utility Review. In 1910, for a gravity generator. Think about that. The technical detail that proves this wasn't just a failed invention. His original demonstration produced 340 watts of continuous output using a 200-pound counterweight array across a 14-foot drop. That's not theoretical. That's documented in the preliminary engineering notes that survived, photocopies of which circulated through independent engineering journals in the 1970s. They killed it, not because it didn't work. They killed it because it did. Mechanic leans on workbench, voice drops. This is where the real talk starts. Here's what smart mechanics, real off-grid builders, the guys who've been doing this quietly for decades, here's what they already know. The principle behind a gravity generator is not science fiction. It's not fringe. It's the same physics that runs a grandfather clock, a hydroelectric dam, and every counterweight-based elevator system in every building you've ever been in. Gravitational potential energy converted to kinetic energy, captured through a mechanical advantage system, stored in flywheel momentum, and converted to electrical output through a standard alternator head. That's it. That's the whole system. The reason you don't learn this in any standard electrical or mechanical certification course is not because it's complicated. It's because it's not profitable for anyone to teach it. Let me give you the specific components that Morley's original design used, because these have been reverse engineered by independent builders multiple times since the 1970s. Number 1, a dual flywheel array. He used cast iron flywheels, 36 inches in diameter, 4 inches thick. The rotational inertia of those flywheels acted as the energy buffer, smoothing out the mechanical input so you got consistent electrical output. Number 2, a counterweight descent mechanism. This is the fuel of the system. A weighted carriage, in Morley's case, 200 pounds of iron, descends along a controlled track, turning a drive shaft through a ratchet and pawl gear train that translates linear descent into rotational energy. Number 3, a re-elevation system. This is what the critics always attack. You can't get the weight back up without spending more energy than you generate. And that's true if you're using an electric motor to lift it. But Morley wasn't. He was using a secondary mechanical advantage system, a compound pulley arrangement, that allowed partial re-elevation using a fraction of the output energy, with the shortfall made up by a hand crank reset cycle every 6 to 8 hours. Think about that. Every 6 to 8 hours, you spend about 4 minutes cranking. In exchange, you get continuous electrical output the rest of the time. Number 4, an alternator head. In 1910, Morley used a modified Westinghouse Type K alternator. Today's builders are using surplus automotive alternators, 12-volt systems most commonly, though some 24-volt builds are running for workshop applications. The documented evidence? Beyond Morley's original notes, there are 3 independent references worth knowing. 1, a 1973 issue of Alternative Energy Mechanics Quarterly, a short-run publication out of Colorado that ran a 14-page technical breakdown of the gravitational capture concept, citing Morley's design as the historical precedent. I've got a photocopy. It's real. 2, a 1981 FOIA request, filed by an independent researcher named Gerald Foss that turned up a 1-page summary from a 1912 Patent Office internal memo referencing gravitational mechanical systems, with continuous output claims being held for review. The language is vague, but it's there. 3, a working replica built in 2003 by a retired mechanical engineer in rural Montana, documented in a 47-page build journal that's been passed around off-grid builder forums for over a decade. That build ran continuously for 11 months before the builder voluntarily dismantled it due to bearing wear on the flywheel shaft. 11 months, continuous, off-grid lighting, refrigeration load, and a small shop compressor. Dealers will never tell you this is possible, and now you know why. Mechanic pulls out a hand-drawn schematic, spreads it on the workbench. All right, let's talk about what you can actually build right now, with parts you can source at a salvage yard, a farm supply store, and a decent bolt supplier. I'm going to walk you through the modern interpretation of the gravitational generator, what the off-grid community calls a weighted descent alternator, or WDA system. This isn't Morley's exact design. This is what builders have iterated to over the last 20 years, based on available materials and modern electrical components. Here's the build breakdown. Start with 2-inch square steel tubing. You need a vertical tower, minimum 10 feet of drop height. More height equals more energy per descent cycle, equals longer runtime between resets. Builders working with 14-foot ceilings in a workshop or barn have the best results. This is why old barns are gold, high ceilings, solid floors, and nobody asking questions. The frame needs to be plumb. Not kind of plumb, actually plumb. Any lateral play in the descent track causes friction loss and bearing wear. Use a laser level. Weld your guide rails from cold rolled steel flat bar. 1.4-inch thickness minimum. You want between 150 and 300 pounds, depending on your output target. The easiest build uses a welded steel carriage with wheel flanges riding on the guide rails. Think of a small elevator car. Load it with standard barbell plates if you want easy adjustability. Bolt pattern the weight plates directly to the carriage deck. The descent needs to be controlled, not free fall, not friction braked. You want a rack and pinion or chain drive transfer, so the descent energy is captured mechanically. Roller chain and a Cirger 50 chain drive sprocket mounted to your input shaft is the most reliable setup. That's standard agricultural roller chain. It's cheap, it's tough, and every farm supply store has it. This is where most first-time builders get it wrong. Your alternator needs to spin at a minimum of 1,500 RPM to produce useful output. Your descent mechanism is going to turn your input shaft at maybe 30, 60 RPM under load. You need a gear ratio of roughly 25.1 to 40.1. Best option for a first build, a surplus agricultural gearbox from a hay tedder or a rotary mower deck. These come up constantly at farm auctions and salvage yards. They're built for outdoor use, they're overbuilt for this application, and they're cheap. I've picked them up for $40 at auction. Alternatively, a multi-stage V-belt drive system, step up from your input shaft through 2 or 3 intermediate pulleys, gets you the RPM multiplication you need without sourcing a specific gearbox. 12-volt automotive alternator. That's your starting point. Any GM CS 130 alternator from a mid-90s truck, Chevy CK series 92 through 99, is ideal. They're robust, they're everywhere, they're cheap, and they're self-exciting, which means you don't need an external field voltage to get them producing output. Wire the alternator output to a battery bank, deep cycle marine or AGM batteries, and run your loads off a 1,000-watt pure sine wave inverter. That's your 120-volt AC for lighting, phone charging, small appliances. Here's the critical part that makes this usable long-term. You need to get the counterweight back to the top between cycles. A compound pulley system, 4.1 mechanical advantage minimum, means you're lifting 200 pounds but only pulling 50 pounds of force. A hand crank reset with a locking pal at the top is the simplest and most reliable setup. Some advanced builders use a small 12-volt winch wired to the battery bank. The energy cost to reset is about 15% of total output, leaving you net positive on the cycle. A well-built 200-pound, 10-foot drop WDA system will produce between 150 and 400 watts of continuous output, depending on descent rate, gearbox efficiency, and alternator condition. That powers full LED lighting for a workshop home, or cabin phone and device charging a chest freezer on a cycle timer, a small well pump on demand. It does not power a central air conditioning system. It does not run an electric range. But for off-grid lighting and basic loads, this is the trap they set. Convincing you that you need the grid for everything, when the reality is most of what a working person actually needs runs on less than 400 watts. If you want to learn from what's already been done, look for documentation on the Montana build, 2003, 14-foot drop, CS 130 alternator, farm gearbox, 11-month continuous run, the Texas barn build, 2011, 10-foot drop, dual alternator setup, belt drive, documented in off-grid forms. Any builder referencing weighted descent combined with surplus alternator. That's the community using the right language. And here's what to look for at salvage yards and auctions. Old farm equipment gearboxes, hay tedders, rotary cutters, manure spreaders. These have the right ratio ranges and they're overbuilt. Pre-2000 GM trucks for alternator cores, the CS 130 and CS 144 series. One-wire hookup, self-exciting, bulletproof. Old elevator counterweight hardware. Guide rails, carriage rollers, cable sheaves. These are literally designed for the exact mechanical function you need. Steel barbell plates in quantity, 45-pound Olympic plates stacked perfectly on a welded carriage frame. This is why mechanics buy old trucks and old equipment. Not just for the engines, for the mechanical knowledge baked into the components. The old stuff was built to last. The new stuff is built to be replaced. Mechanic steps back from the workbench. Direct eye contact. No notes. Let me be straight with you about what's happening here. They want you trapped. That's not paranoia. That's business model. Every utility company, every fuel supplier, every grid operator is running the same playbook. Make dependency feel normal. Make the meter feel inevitable. Make anyone who questions it look crazy. They've been running that play since 1910, since before Morley's generator was shut down, since before Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower was defunded, since before every independent energy patent that threatened centralized power was quietly reclassified, bought out, or starved of funding. And it works, because most people never hear about this stuff. The information doesn't make it into schools, it doesn't make it into trade certifications, it doesn't make it into the mainstream mechanic channels that are sponsored by the same companies selling you $4-a-gallon fuel and $300 a month electric bills. Here's how you fight back. 1. Build your knowledge base. Learn the mechanical principles. Gravitational potential energy, flywheel dynamics, alternator theory. None of this is hidden science, it's physics. It's been physics for 300 years. The application is what they suppressed, not the knowledge. 2. Source your components now, before scrap prices go up, before the good farm auction gearboxes are gone. Before they find a way to regulate surplus alternator sales the way they're already trying to regulate certain battery chemistries. 3. Build something, even a small proof of concept. A 50-pound counterweight on a 6-foot drop. Wire it to a small alternator. See what it produces. Touch it. Understand it with your hands. Because a mechanic who's built something cannot be gaslit about whether it's possible. 4. Share this. Not because I need the views, because every person who watches this and builds something is one more person who isn't completely dependent. One more household that doesn't go dark when the grid goes down. One more mechanic who can't be sold a line about how this is impossible. They spent over a century making sure you never heard the name Edward Morley, never saw the 1912 Patent Office memo, never read about the Montana build or the Texas barn. Now, here's what I need from you. Drop a comment below. Tell me, are you already off-grid? Are you planning a build? Have you seen something like this that works and nobody's talking about it? Because I read every comment, and the conversations happening down there are worth more than the video itself. And if you've got documentation, old engineering journals, build notes, anything related to gravitational mechanical systems, reach out. There's more of this history that needs to see daylight. Government does not want you to know this is possible. Dealers will never tell you it's buildable. The power companies are counting on you staying plugged in.